Yes, maybe just in case it's safer. Let's try this.
So welcome back. We are now moving to the part of the work program where the activities we fund should deliver what we call a web of fair data and services. So data and services that are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, trusted virtual research environments that will be accessible to researchers across disciplines and across Europe. We have 5 topics under this destination, and we will start with the one that will be addressing fair and open data sharing in support of the mission on adaptation to climate change. And for that, I have my colleague Catherine Winkler, who will tell you all you need to know about this topic. Catherine, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michael. So yes, I would like to introduce to you this initiative, Fair and Open Data Sharing in support of the mission Adaptation to Climate Change. This is the third time we are supporting a mission, a EU strategic mission. We had 2 calls in the past, one in 2021 on cancer research resulting in a project INFRAEOSC for cancer, and one in 2022 in healthy ocean, seas, coastal and inland waters resulting in Aqua for Infra and the Blue Cloud Initiative 2026. So now this is the third time we are opening this call. This is a research innovation action. We have reserved a budget of about 16 million euros, and we expect to fund at least up to 2 projects with a budget, each of them having 6 to 8 million euros. Call opening is 6th of December and deadline 12th of March next year. So we have in principle 2 objectives with these initiatives. One the one to support the strategic mission, and the other one to have to support fair and open data sharing. With that, we would like to accelerate research and innovation by promoting links with IOSC infrastructures and mainstreaming open science and fair data practices in synergy with the European Open Science European partnerships. From the projects, we expect as outcomes that researchers, providers of operation and data facilities and other stakeholders contributing to climate adaptation regularly interact with IOSC to store, share, access, analyze and process research data and other digital objects from their own discipline, across disciplines and across national borders. Open and fair data we expect to have become the new norm for research conducted under this mission area, and that the EU-wide sharing of research data relevant to this area is shown to be a critical mechanism to facilitate climate adaptation across member states and associated states with involvement of regional and local authorities. And by that, we expect IOSC to grow into a trusted research and innovation data space and service platform in Europe that interconnects with the Green Deal European data space and supports the interdisciplinary community involved in this mission area. So I think now we have to go to the former slide. Back, yeah, thank you very much. So as I said beforehand, the scope of this initiative is to accelerate research and innovation under this mission area through better access, management, interoperability, and reuse of digital information. This can be achieved by using and integrating IOSC resources, ranging from IOSC federated infrastructures, services, and data to guidelines, best practices, tools, and metrics for the management of fair and open data. And these resources shall then be extended to the relevant climate adaptation domains that are less familiar with the IOSC. Cross-domain strategic use cases of direct relevance to the mission play here a vital role to achieve these objectives. These use cases should demonstrate the value of sharing fair and open research data and should contribute to the modular development of IOSC through user environments. And special attention should be put on aspects of data harmonization, data quality assurance, data privacy and security, big data analysis and machine learning methods, as well as on the socio-economic dimensions. We expect also synergies to be approached, for instance, with the Horizon Europe Cluster 5 activities, with the European data spaces, Destination Earth, with ESRI clusters, or European partnerships, and a special close alignment should be approached on the with the IOSC partnership and in collaboration with a project that was funded under the INFRAEOSC 2021 call. This call had the focus on enabling discovery and interoperability of federated research objects across scientific community, and resulted in a project being funded which is called Fair Impact, expanding fair solution across IOSC. That's what I wanted to say about that.
Many thanks, Catherine. As you may have noticed, there was a bit of a mix-up of the slides. So if we can go back to the first slides, I would like to give a bit the context which Catherine also referred to overall about the IOSC destination. So if I could ask you to quickly go back in the presentations before that one. Also, if you take the previous one, the INFRAEOSC destination is, if I can switch to the previous one, please, slide. Yes, is exactly also as we introduced in the policy context, is being established both in the context of research and innovation policy and in the context of the digital strategy. So it's both about realizing a web of fair data and services for science, but broader than that, for science, research and innovation, as it is set out also in the digital strategy, articulating also with other data spaces that are put forward in the European strategy for data that Grazina referred to in the very beginning. It is very much also about mainstreaming the practice of open science among researchers and research institutions, so enabling them to more easily, more effortless, share all kinds of research outputs. So not only research data, also publications, software, methods, and so on, both within their own disciplines and across disciplines. And this in a context of an increasing volume of research data and increased pressure to ensure also that research data are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, and as open as possible, as closed as necessary. So the productivity of fair research data is a key issue as well to be addressed under this destination. So if you move to the next slide, you will see that in the context of this European co-program partnership, we have already addressed in the first 2 years of the work program on the Horizon Europe a number of topics that ranges from the core components of the IASC Federation to customizable services for IASC, but also addressing a number of thematic areas. And you see here, for instance, the Oceans mission. And also, if you move to the next slide, there was also here the Cancer mission. If you move to the next slide, there was the one before that, please. There was also a big project that will be launched as a result of one of the topics of last year on around the science clusters. So again, taking a thematic approach here, you see again topics around software, around tracking, and again on services and trusted environments for sensitive data management. So complementarity, but also further developing these activities that were supported by previous topics and ending up with the 5 topics that we are presenting today. So Catherine has already presented the first topic, which was around the mission on adaptation to climate change. And we will now move to the next topic, which is exactly around support to the IASC partnership to further consolidate how we coordinate, how we sustain the IASC ecosystem. And for that, I have with me my colleague Pantelis Tsiviloglu, who will give us more information about this topic. Pantelis, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Indeed, coordination and sustainability is 2 of the main keywords that we will see coming up in this topic. This is a coordination and support action. This means that activities that can contribute to the objectives of Horizon Europe and of course to the specific objectives of this topic can be supported, but not research and innovation actions per se. It has an indicative budget of 4 million euro, and an indicative number of projects expected to be funded under this topic is 1. So we expect to fund 1 project under this topic. The call is opening on the 6th of December and closing on the 12th of March 2024. Next slide, please. So as Michael already highlighted, this is a topic to support the partnership of the European Open Science Cloud in consolidating and coordinating the IASC ecosystem. The expected outcomes are very much around coordination between and among national and European initiatives, creating mechanisms of mutual learning, but also using the experience of our cooperation and coordination in the past years to learn and to develop best practices and joint activities. It is coordination at the level of IASC-related initiatives outside and inside Horizon Europe. So Horizon Europe funded actions, Horizon Europe projects, but also initiatives that are taking place to the development of the European Open Science Cloud outside Horizon Europe, the European program. So our aim is to move towards a more proactive and impactful approach. And of course, the overall framing and strategic orientation of our work is set out in the strategic research and innovation action objectives agenda, the 3 objectives, which is a document that was adopted at the beginning of the IASC partnership. It is about sustainability, moving forward towards a more sustainable IASC And this includes also transnational access to data and services, but also developing cost models, business models, viable business models that will support the future of EOSC. And it is about access to information. So this project should support and facilitate access to information to all EOSC stakeholders at the level of countries, institutions, networks, any kinds of initiatives at the European level as well. It is a topic that will include also the instrument of financial support to third parties, in particular for supporting the delivery of expected outcomes 1 and 2, so the first and second bullets of the expected outcomes that I just presented. Next slide, please. The scope of this topic naturally follows what are the expected outcomes that we just described before. So it is about developing and implementing an effective European level cooperation framework, a thriving EOSC ecosystem, it to support the EOSC community at large, at the institutional, at national level, to reinforce the coordination mechanisms and to support networks of providers as well as users, representatives of the European Open Science Cloud, to support coordination and synergies between activities of the EOSC Association and the members of the EOSC Association initiatives, together with EU-funded projects, so Horizon Europe, projects funded by Horizon Europe, and the still ongoing projects of Horizon 2020, and to enhance the EOSC coordination to targeted investments and contributions. So this financial support to third countries, which we also call cascade funding, can be used to kickstart coordination nodes in countries where such structures are probably at this stage not yet exist or not have been mature enough, to promote and or coordinate joint actions and investments between countries, so to move into a country-to-country cooperation in terms of developing such nodes, and to coordinate at an even broader level international initiatives. So this could be also among European countries, but also with countries outside Europe, that aim at further strengthening the EOSC ecosystem and the objectives that we're trying to achieve through the development of EOSC. Next slide, please. More details on the scope of this topic is about strengthening collaboration and alignment between the portfolio of EU-funded projects. There are numerous projects funded under the INFRAEOSC destination of the current and the previous work program that are currently delivering results, and it is important to align the portfolio of these projects and together also with the activities conducted by the EOSC Association and its members, always following the objectives of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. And then again, we can use the financial support to third countries, cascade funding, related but not limited to activities such as support to additional collaborative activities among EU-funded projects and the EOSC Association, but also building operational synergies within and beyond the EOSC ecosystem. Another important element of the scope is to implement and develop clear and viable financial models to support the long-term sustainability of the main building blocks of the European Open Science Cloud. And some maybe important elements to highlight in relation to this topic is that it is important that the project that will be funded under this topic capitalizes on the results of currently ongoing projects, such as the results of the project funded under topic 2021 EOSC 0102 on the work of the EOSC task force and on the work on the EOSC of task force and sustainability. The project that is funded under EOSC 0102 is EOSC Focus. It is also capitalizing on existing financial and accounting practices of research infrastructures in Europe and other initiatives, and including the virtual access mechanism that is based on projects funded under projects that we have in the INFRAEOSC calls in Horizon 2020. And it's important also to ensure collaboration with projects funded under topic 2023 EOSC 0101. This is a topic, the project of which will hopefully be kickstarting very soon. And that is all from my side. Back to you, Michael.
Many thanks, Pantelis. Very clear. And that allows us to move to the next topic, which is about enabling a network of INFRAEOSC federated and trustworthy repositories, and also enhancing the framework of services for data and other digital objects. And to present that for us today, I have with me my colleague Kostas Repanas, who will give you the details of this topic. Kostas?
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. So let's move to the first slide for this topic. This is a coordination and support action with an indicative budget of 5 million, and we expect to fund one project. Next slide, please. So this is an effort from our side to boost this idea of trusted and trustworthy repositories under INFRAEOSC. We want to create a European network of such repositories to enhance the INFRAEOSC ecosystem and contribute to the consolidation of open science practices and support European researchers. The concept and requirements of trustworthy repositories are harmonized and therefore support the European funders in better addressing open science provisions in their programs. And as a final expected outcome, a data depositing ecosystem in Europe is supported, providing a common voice for research digital repositories to better interact with the research innovation policy making and to respond in a more coordinated and cohesive manner to the need of European researchers. And next, let's see the scope. So really to create such a repository network following fair enabling principles, to build a lean governance for this network so that they can moderate, coordinate, and provide a common directionality and a common legal understanding within the repository. So it's under a lot of coordinating all this network of repositories. Also enhance the technical federation with standards, APIs, and solutions that could improve access to resources, boost the framework of services of repositories within this network, for example, for storage, curation, but also for innovative solutions such as, for example, repositories as a service that can support institutions and communities. And finally, we want to promote stable, general, and discipline-oriented initiatives to support consolidation of metadata schemas and vocabularies, standards and formats, and services to foster interoperability. Can we go to the next topic? So this is very closely related. So again, we talk about data storage and preservation, but this time looking more on the long-term aspect, but also including data quality aspects. In contrast, this is a research and innovation action. The budget is about 8 million that we expect, and we want to fund one project again. And let's see what are some of the expected outcomes. So in this topic, we want to see practices, standards, and tools for long-term preservation that, to become mainstream in the INFRAEOSC ecosystem. We want to see the emergence of a European distributed infrastructure for long-term preservation and access to be supported, and the sustainability of long-term preservation among the European scientific community significantly enhanced. And then we want to see some common requirements for data quality that are valid across disciplines to be defined. So to match the quality of data with requirements for long-term preservation. And the scope for this topic, establish a minimum set of practices and a general framework to identify what data is candidate to long-term preservation based on their use, benefit, and quality. So really asking the question of all this amount of data that are being created, do we need to keep everything in the long term? Support the creation of long-term preservation and access strategies and processes among the different scientific disciplines. So what are the differences? What are the commonalities of different disciplines in long-term storage and access? engage and collaborate with domain-specific networks, creating new ones where necessary, that will strengthen long-term access and preservation and support reproducibility, integrity, and validity. Build upon existing services and enrich EOSC with tools to store and access digital data for long periods, automate and federate certain specialized curation and preservation tasks. Now, finally, create an expert curation network that is discipline-oriented, that will enhance and facilitate the curation process and the digital preservation actions to ensure data remain accessible as technology changes. This is a very important aspect of this topic. Thank you very much. And just to say that we expect also very close synergies between these two topics.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kostas. Very clear again. So presenting also this topic of long-term access and preservation, data quality, in addition to the first one on a network of trustworthy repositories. I remind you that Slido, of course, is always open for any questions you might want to pose. But before we move to the question and answer session, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Peter Zegidi, who will tell you all about the topic of innovative and customizable services for the IOSC exchange. Peter?
Thank you, Michael, for the floor. So indeed, in this call, we are looking for innovative and customizable services for the IOSC exchange. It is a research and innovation action with a total budget of 28 million. For that amount of money, we are looking for up to 4 proposals in an average 7 million per each. The deadlines are the same as the previous calls. So the objective, on the next slide, please. The objective of and the outcomes of this call, the vision that your proposal should contribute to is the following. So the next generation IOSC provides researchers with the means of easy access to complete data sets and analytics platforms to provide services that support reproducibility and the aforementioned long-term preservation and long-term availability of research results. As an ecosystem and the marketplace, IOSC exchange often referred as a marketplace, we're looking for novel tools and services. As many fair by design datasets as possible included, where the researchers are able to deliver rapid outputs throughout the whole research lifecycle. As much as we want your proposal to focus on the entire research lifecycle, we also want to emphasize the entry phase of the lifecycle to lower the bar for researchers to engage with IOSC and underpin the initial research planning and preparation phase of the lifecycle. The next slide, please. I do have some generic guiding principles for the proposals. The most important one is that these innovative new services should exploit the results of the minimum viable IOSC platform, or as we call it, the IOSC EU node, which is the result of the public procurement, and that puts this platform into production in the course of 2024. So we expect you to integrate as much as possible with this minimum viable core platform. Secondly, we also appreciate all the proposals to be user-driven and use case-driven. So you have to test your service initiatives against 2-3 real-time use cases, and for that purpose we also have the core EOS core next generation EOS core call from 2023, which offers a testbed facility for that purpose. So we also encourage all the proposals to interact with that. The last slide, please. So the actual scope of those innovative and customizable services are the following. Of course, we expect you to improve the technology readiness level of the existing IOSC exchange services and components, moving from testing development to production. Therefore, further develop the ecosystem of research data and related services, facilitate the collection and analytics of heterogeneous, so multidisciplinary, large-scale data sets, right from the sources, the instruments, the research instruments of those facts. Facilitate also and support automatic production of fair data sets directly by the instruments, add layers on top of data lakes and unstructured data towards semi-structured and structured data, so you can do some additional analytic services, data warehousing, data marts on top of those structured data sets that you're analyzing. And we also want to support the real-time aspects of data. So data streaming, real-time data management and analytics would be an interesting factor when you're thinking about those new innovative services. And to that end, we also want you to think about reliable message-based event hubs that can certain services can subscribe to get notified about this latest real-time data available via the IOSC platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Clear as always. You will have noticed that in 2 of the 5 topics that were presented in this session, there was the possibility to use what we call cascading grants, or to give financial support to third parties. So a bit to anticipate also, because we've seen in previous Info Days some questions around this, we have a very short presentation on what that means, and this will be given by Carmen. Marcus coming back to give this presentation. Carmen, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. So I will go straight to the definition of the financial support to third parties. This happens when the EU support received via the EU grant is passed on to recipients that are not part of the grant agreement, and this is also called cascade granting. In other words, the European Commission provides the EU grant to the beneficiary, and the beneficiary organize calls and provides the financial support in the form of grants to the final recipient. As Michael said, this applies for the 2 topics of the 2024 infra calls, 0102 and 0103. In the next slide, this is really crucial for applicants to read the provisions for financial support to third parties, both in the general annexes of the Horizon Europe Work Programme 2023-24 and in the annotated grant agreement, because this will need to be reflected in the submitted proposals. There are technicalities of implementation that have to be precise and really have to comply with the different points described in the annotated grant agreement, and if these are not done correctly, costs may not be eligible and will not be reimbursed. So in a nutshell, the proposal must detail the conditions which will apply for providing support to third parties in terms of how the calls will be organized by the beneficiary, how the proposals will be evaluated, how you will ensure that the end recipients of cascading grants fulfill the conditions. Now, the calls will need to be published both on the Funding and Tenders portal of Horizon Europe and on the beneficiary's website, and this is really with the view to ensure broad visibility and accessibility for the third parties that can potentially apply for cascading grants. The next slide, the lines on this slide are really coming straight from the annotated grant agreement. So the proposals must detail the conditions which will apply for providing financial support to third parties, and the call conditions must ensure objective and transparent selection procedures and include the maximum amount of financial support for third party. This is defined in the call text for both topics concerned, IOSC 0102 and IOSC 0103. And then there is a criteria on how you calculate the amount, what are the eligible costs on the side of the end beneficiary. Then the activities, the different type of activities that qualify for financial support and the beneficiaries can carry out. The individuals or categories of individuals that will be supported, and the criteria and procedures for giving financial support. In the next slide, which is the last one. So the consortium will need to describe in the proposal who amongst themselves will be responsible for organizing the calls for financial support to third parties, so which institution part of the consortium. Then there is a need to define a template for the agreements for the grant agreement between the consortium and those who will receive the financial support as third parties, and it does not need to be identical with our grant agreement. It can be more simple, but you need to have something in place there. Then looking at possibility to have beneficiaries also as third parties. This is not encouraged in principle, but there are exceptions which apply here. So if you go for the possibility that legal entities in the consortium that sign the grant agreement with the Commission can apply to the calls for third parties, you need to be very precise in the proposal how you establish walls between those who prepare the calls, so both, the terms of reference and the evaluation, and those on the other side who potentially can apply for the call in order to avoid the conflict of interest and maintain confidentiality. A next step, so once the calls are organized and the third parties are selected, you will need to provide the Commission the so-called commitment on the availability of funds, basically saying, that they are these selected proposals and we have the resources to fund those proposals. And finally, at the finalization time, so at the end of the implementation of the foreseen activities, actions, you will have to report to the Commission the costs incurred for funding the projects. And this also have an impact on timing, because everything needs to be finalized before the grant agreement with the Commission comes to an end. So the grants provided to the third party needs to be finalized and paid within the duration of the primary grant agreement with the Commission. If, let's say, there is a project for the third parties that lasts 6 months, these 6 months have necessarily to be terminated and the end beneficiaries to be paid within the period of the grant agreement with the Commission, so before the grant agreement comes to an end. This was on the technicalities.
Many thanks, Carmen. Yes, indeed, a mechanism that was already introduced in previous framework programs that allow consortia to move faster with less administrative overhead when financing smaller scale actions. So really a helpful tool for implementing the actions. Let's now move to the Q&A session, and we already have a number of questions that have been posted on Slido. And I would like to start with the first one that was posted, which is a question whether or not partners should be INFRAEOSC stakeholders. Now, that depends on how you define INFRAEOSC stakeholders. I would assume that this refers to must partners be part of the, or members of the INFRAEOSC association representing the research community. Definitely not. All legal entities are welcome to participate in projects under these topics. It's true that there may be some confusion whether or not how this relates to the co-programmed partnership, which is based on a memorandum of understanding between the Commission and the INFRAEOSC association. There was a topic presented, of course, on support also to this partnership. But let me again confirm that all legal entities are welcome. The topics are completely open to all stakeholders of INFRAEOSC, but not necessarily members of the INFRAEOSC association. There are two questions that are quite related, and they concern the two topics presented by Kostas. So indeed, as Kostas said at the very end of his presentation, we do envisage close links between projects funded under the two topics. And the question is, do you expect this to be achieved via an overlap of partners between the projects? So let's take this question first and we'll come back with the second one. Kostas?
Yes, thank you, Michael. This is, of course, one way of doing it. It's not the only way. I don't think we can see this as a requirement, but it is a possibility, let's say. It's not a prerequisite for the apply for the topics. Yeah.
Absolutely not, yes. But one way of doing it. The other question is a bit a question of further explanation, because you did explain to a large extent. So the two topics seem pretty similar and to some extent overlapping, which is perfectly fine. But can you specify which are the unique, distinguished aspects of the two topics, Kostas?
Yes. So just by looking at the type of action, this is the first main difference, right? So we have a coordination action, and then the second one is a research and innovation action. So the first topic really focuses on coordination, alignment between repositories, creating this network that will facilitate better access and use of facilities and so on. So it's really looking more at how do we support and to build and coordinate this network. And the second one is more on coming up with new ideas, new ways of defining certain aspects of repositories and archives. You know, there's maybe a subtle difference there. A small repository may not be perhaps the right place for long-term preservation of a very important data set. Has to go to an archive for that. You know, looking more at these subtle differences, and not forgetting the emphasis on the data quality aspects, because this is something that through the IOSC Association we're also looking into, but so far we have not funded a topic clearly focusing on this aspect. And depending on the definition, this is a debate, but the FAIR principles may not fully cover data quality aspects. So we want to give some emphasis on this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kostas. Yes, FAIR is very important, but it doesn't guarantee, of course, the full quality, high quality aspects of the data.
And may I add something, Michael?
Absolutely.
Sorry, because of course, just in the interest of time, I didn't include everything that we say in the topic text, but the synergies are not only between these topics. There are other synergies that we expect. We describe them in the text, and of course, both of these projects, we expect them to build on all the work that has been going on already since Horizon 2020, starting with, for example, Project FAIR is Fair. Already some work has been done clearly in the realm of repositories, and we have used the grants, the cascading grants before, and this works well. It helps repositories to improve their services. So, of course, we want to see all the work that has happened in the IOSC ecosystem to be built upon.
Thank you, Kostas. Important reminder, indeed, of course, to read every line of the topic description, and indeed these synergies and building on previous results, ongoing activities is very important, so that we can move this further. Let's see if we have more questions from Slido. For the time being, I don't see any further questions. Looking at the excellent technical support team, I don't see it. So with that, let's have a break, coffee or other. Let's not have it virtual, but have a real coffee. And let's meet back here at 11:20. See you back then.